What's going on, everyone? Trust the Buzz here. If you're new to the channel, I make daily Charlotte Hornets content, so if that interests you, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. If you cannot tell by the thumbnail title of this video, in today's video, we're going to be talking about the amazing showcase we saw last night between Victor Wembanyama and Scoot Henderson. Now, you may be wondering, hey, you talk about the Charlotte Hornets, why are we talking about those guys? That is because the Charlotte Hornets should get Victor Wembanyama, and the reason I say that is because they are in a position where they can have a really quick rebuild if they do it the right way. And by really quick, I mean at tops 3 years, and then they're already in playoff contention. And that's all we want, right? Let me know if I'm wrong, but all we want is to make the playoffs without going to the play-in, maybe get past the first round and make some noise in the second round. That's what we want right now. We can worry about the rest later. That's all we want. And I think that the blueprint I'm about to tell y'all about is the way for them to do it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and just talk about they're incompetent or things like that. I have plenty of videos where I just get upset because I am upset at this team. However, they can right all their wrongs if they do this right. And I'm going to give you 3 examples. So one, my first example, the Phoenix Suns. Look what they did. They had Devin Booker. They were the laughingstock of the league for a very long time. And they had Devin Booker. They let Devin Booker be Devin Booker. They let him turn the ball over, let him take bad shots, let him grow into a player. They still sucked. And so then they got DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton helped that team, and then they went on to they got into the bubble, and people are like, why are they in the bubble? Then they almost made the playoffs because they went undefeated in the bubble, I believe. And so then at that point, you're like, oh, they might really have something here. So they allowed themselves to continue to suck. And then once they started building a core, they got Cam Johnson. Everybody's like, why would they draft Cam Johnson? They got Mikal Bridges. These guys weren't superstars. They just got guys who fit their system, guys who are just going to play hard and just fill their role. And then at the end of the day, they got Chris Paul on a steal, which I'm not saying that the Hornets have to go get a person like Chris Paul, but I am saying that they built a team. The team didn't win. It's not like the team was in the playoffs, but they built a team and literally just inserted one veteran that could take them over the top. And he doesn't even have to do much. It's not like Chris Paul's dropping 30 every night. Granted, he's racking up the assists, but that's a lot to do with his game knowledge and a lot to do with the skills of the players around him. Chris Paul set the guys up around him to be successful. He's just a field general, and he does a great job of that, and therefore everybody around him reaps the benefits. So my next example for you is we're watching it now with the New Orleans Pelicans. So what they do, traded Anthony Davis, got all these picks, got Zion Williamson. Now, granted, he got hurt, so a lot of that is the reason why they got these picks, and I get it, and I'm not wishing injury on anybody, or I'm hoping the injury doesn't have to happen for the Hornets to implement this, but Zion Williamson stay injured, and we know that if he was playing, they probably wouldn't be able to pick as high. And they didn't, after Zion, they didn't pick anybody high after that. They got like 8th and 10th and 11th and 12th. They got all these kinds of picks. And then they drafted guys like Jackson Hayes, who not a superstar. Trey Murphy, who's not a superstar. Herb Jones, who's not a superstar. They picked up Jose Alvarado, not a superstar. Got Larry Nance Jr. in a trade for CJ McCollum. And then they got CJ McCollum. And then you have Brandon Ingram to add to that. And then we were wondering, why would they trade for CJ McCollum? Why are they trying to force this team to the playoffs? It wasn't about this year. Well, last year when they made the trade, it wasn't about that year. But look how much he changed the culture on the court. And that was without Zion. And then they gave the Suns a run for their money. And now everybody's raving about them and projecting them to make the playoffs and at least make some noise in the playoffs, because we saw they gave the Suns a run for their money and they had the potential to go further. If they would have, with a healthy Zion, they were to go on to play the Mavericks. We're talking a different game here. Like that's a close. I personally feel like that could have been a really close series. Mavericks may have pulled it out because at the end of the day they have Luka, but all I'm saying is that could have been a really interesting series. And then you look at a team that is freshly doing this method, and that's the Cleveland Cavaliers, where they sucked for a long time. They drafted Darius Garland over Kobe White, which some people were like, why would you do that? Not because Darius Garland wasn't as good as Kobe White or Kobe White was that much better. It was more so Darius Garland played, 3 games at Vanderbilt. So why would you draft this guy? Then you keep Kevin Love. Why would you keep Kevin Love around? Then you're just like afterthought in terms of getting Jared Allen. Jared Allen was supposed to go to Houston. They were just stepping in and be like, hey, we'll take him if nobody wants him. Then they got Jared Allen, end up being an all-star. Then you still suck, so then you get Evan Mobley at 3rd. And then Evan Mobley came into the gate almost an all-star. And then what you do, you keep Kevin Love, like I said, and then you, without giving up a core piece, you get Donovan Mitchell. You plug him in, and now everybody's projecting this team to make the playoffs, which I agree. I think they'll make the playoffs, and I think they'll maybe go to the second round. It depends on who the matchup is. But that's all we want for the Charlotte Hornets. I know you may say, oh, well, they did all that, and they're not making the finals. We're in no position to be asking for the finals. We just want to make the playoffs, give a team a run for their money, and then reevaluate the situation there. We have to get there first. I'm not saying I'm complacent with just making the playoffs. Right now, I'm just trying to get there. Once we get there, we can dissect the roster and go from there. So that's all I'm asking. So I've given you 3 teams that have implemented this. The Charlotte Hornets are in the perfect position to do this. So I don't understand. It would just really be a waste if they were to not try to do this. And not just for Victor Wembanyama. Like, I get it. He definitely seems like a generational talent, but this draft class is deep. So I'm not saying the 4th guy is going to be as good as Victor Wembanyama. I'm not saying any of the guys are going to be as good as Victor Wembanyama. All I am saying is that this draft class is deep. So if you're just able to get a guy who comes in and just plays hard and just ends up exceeding expectations, fits into the system, plays well next to LaMelo, and whatever case that may be, because that was one thing about Miles Bridges, is that you knew he was going to be LaMelo's go-to guy. We need another go-to guy. And granted, I don't think that with Miles Bridges being like, 1B or 2, whatever you want to say for the hierarchy, that team would have had to rely on just the rest of the bench and the rest of the starters filling out, playing their role. It would have had to take a lot. You'd have had a strong core. However, if you get a guy like Victor Wembanyama, you need LaMelo, him, and then decent guys around who just play their role, like these other teams, like the Cleveland Cavaliers have guys they're talking about playing Dean Wade. Like, he's just a guy, and he's not bad. He's just a guy who comes in and plays his role. That's all the Charlotte Hornets need. Like I said, the Pelicans have Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. These guys are superstars, but they come in and play their role at a very high level at such a young age. The Hornets are in a prime position to do that. You know what LaMelo is going to be, and you know what he's projected to be. So why not take the risk? This is better than any risk they have taken. This is better than signing Lance Stevenson. This is better than bringing in Al Jefferson. This, even if you don't get him, just the opportunity is just worth it way more. This is definitely way better risk than getting Gordon Hayward. And I honestly think that's what they were trying to do with Gordon Hayward, is that, we'll just insert Gordon Hayward here. We're going to be the next team in the playoffs, the team everybody's talking about. And that worked to an extent. Gordon Hayward couldn't stay healthy. Gordon Hayward, and y'all know I say this all the time, but correct me if I'm wrong, Gordon Hayward's not coaching these guys up like Chris Paul was off the floor, or like CJ McCollum is right now. Like, Gordon Hayward's not doing any of that. And like I said, I think he's a really great guy on the court. He leads by example. He's just never on the court. His leadership style is by example. He's just never on the court to lead by example. So I'm not saying that they can't do it, because it almost worked. It really did. It really almost worked with Gordon Hayward. It was just the one, who would have saw the Miles Bridges situation, and then 2, that was their fault for getting a guy who just cannot be healthy. That was their fault. But it almost worked. And so Mitch Kupchak, one thing I say about him is that he does have an eye for talent. Now, with Kai Jones and James Bouknight, I'm not out on those guys yet, but they're basically playing their second rookie season, so it's really hard to evaluate them. But when you look at when he drafted Miles Bridges, when he drafted P.J. Washington, basically these guys, if you look at any time the Hornets picked with Mitch Kupchak there, there's not too many people after his picks or the Charlotte Hornets picks where you're like, they really should have got that guy, or that guy is definitely better than this guy. Like, it doesn't happen. Not often, because I actually do think Mitch Kupchak has an eye for talent. Now, they don't know what to do with the talent once they get it, because like James Bouknight, we saw, like, he's a really talented dude. I do think there was other guys that were better than him, but they, like Moses Moody, and I think they should have got him. Why they got James Bouknight, considering the way they're using him, it doesn't make sense. Moses Moody fits that mold more if that's what they're going to do, but that's besides the point. It's just they have guys who can fill in these bench roles after you set up LaMelo, set up Victor Wembanyama, and set up one veteran, whoever. I don't have an idea who that veteran may be. It could be a lot of different people, but as of right now, I'm just saying that you get LaMelo, you get Victor Wembanyama, and then you get some veteran. I think you have the pieces around. You have PJ. You got Jalen McDaniels. And these are the type of guys who are going to make that team successful. So you got LaMelo, Victor, and a good, savvy veteran. You don't need no superstar after that. PJ's a great guy for a roster like that. I even think Mark Williams, even though we haven't seen him play a real NBA minute yet, is a good guy for that, depending on the position of the savvy veteran. And, well, I guess Victor Wembanyama, so it wouldn't help. But you have guys like James Bouknight can come off the bench and light it up if you train him up correctly. So it's just like Bryce McGowan's a guy who is known for scoring, but we saw early in the first preseason game, he actually is not that bad of a defender. So you have guys who can play in these roles. Of these guys like Trey Murphy, of these guys like Jay Crowder, Cam Johnson, you have guys like that. So if you just get the rest, you'll be fine. That's the hard part, though. But however, this is your best chance. To be honest, you don't want to trade for the big names by yourself. You know what I mean? You like that, y'all. They refuse to do that. This is your best chance: is to tank. Get Victor Wembanyama. Get anybody, to be honest. Like I said, top 8 guys off the top of my head are pretty good. And then go from there. And then build up a culture. Like Steve Clifford, I love Steve Clifford at this point. He just knows basketball, and I feel like that's really good for a young team. A young team, build your culture. Now, when we have to talk about Steve Clifford when it comes to getting to the playoffs and things like, we might. But as of right now, I think it's fine. I think it's perfectly fine. You just have to surround him with players who want to play. You have to surround him with players who just are very talented and that have potential. But you can't surround him with Kelly Oubre, Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier with LaMelo. Like, you just add LaMelo to that and then be like, all right, go. And granted, they thought Miles was going to be here, but still, that's still rough. It's just better off you tank, you get Victor Wembanyama, you get any of these guys, and go from there. And I think it can work. We've seen it work. You just got to draft the right people. And I feel like Mitch Kupchak will. That can be having too much faith in him, but I really think he can do it. Anyway, this video is getting long. Let me know what you think of that strategy down below in the comment section. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and just complain about the roster all the time. But I really do feel like this could work because we've seen it work. I really feel like for example, the Cavs, we haven't seen it work for them necessarily, but I have no reason to believe it won't work. So I think this will work. And the Hornets are one of the few teams that can do it. Like the Sacramento Kings can't do it. The Indiana Pacers can't do it. I'm trying to think of other teams. The Detroit Pistons can't necessarily do it, not yet. Like the type of player that LaMelo is, you team him up with another guy, like I said, just another young, talented guy. And the guy doesn't have to show out in the beginning. He just has to show the potential. He has to show that he can make it. I'm just using Victor Wembanyama as an example. But like I said, this draft class is deep. And they're not all Victor. However, there are just some very talented guys. You get another young guy in here that just comes in and plays to high levels already off rip. I'm telling you, you have a chance, and that's all we want. We're not giving a chance. This team doesn't have a chance, and that's the problem. I feel like with the front office. But like I said, I'm not going to keep talking about it. But they're not giving it. They're doing everybody a disservice. Whether you like Kelly Oubre or not, whether you like Terry Rozier or not, as a fan, the team is still doing them dirty because you're not giving anybody a fair shot, let alone like LaMelo at the end of that. So, like I said, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. And I'm releasing this video before the preseason game against the Indiana Pacers. And of course, I'll give you my thoughts on that after the game. But once again, thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.